Hello everyone.
Hi.
We are live. Just wait for some people to join before we do anything. Should explain what we're doing, really.
Yes.
So this is an interesting experiment. We're here in lockdown.
Yeah.
And we are working on the McBroom sisters album, Lorelei and Durga's album. And we're mixing it at the moment. We're at the mixing stage, and I thought it would be a good idea if we did some of the mixing live on Facebook. So yeah, we're going to go through and mix the song On the Turning Away, which you've done a cover of, Pink Floyd song On the Turning Away, and you're doing it live on. We're doing it live on Facebook. I'll probably have to say that again because people will join and they'll wonder what's going on. But Lorelei wants to say a couple of things, so I'm going to lean back in this particularly technical setup and give her the microphone.
Well, the thing I wanted to say is that this song, in my opinion, is the reason why we worked with Pink Floyd, Durga and I, from the beginning, along with Roberta Freeman, because the song really features a choir of voices, and to get that effect live, which is what they were filming when we did the shows back in 1987 in Atlanta, it just has a fullness to it, which is quite beautiful. So we did our best to recapture that in our cover of the song. It's particularly a favorite of Durga's because of the lyrics and what it's talking about and the times that we're in the world right now. We really need to be looking out for each other, and especially now.
Cool. Well, there we go. So we're going to go through, I've kind of got a bit of a setup here. I've got my iPad up there filming us.
And I'm going to scoot back.
Oh, she's going to scoot back. Get out of the way. And we're in my little home studio. I'm going to swap the angle to this. And as you can see here, I have the song all set up in Cubase. It's quite distracting having a delay because I've got Facebook open on the other screen.
Yeah, I can see.
And it's all delayed from what it is. But don't give her the virus from your beard, says Richard. No, she's more likely to get a computer virus from me than a
The
COVID.
thing is, we've been together for weeks now because we were on tour together and then came back here, and we really haven't been going out. I mean, other than to go to the market, and that's been at times when it's empty. So I feel quite safe.
Well, there we go. Don't want the pensioner coming down with it. So sorry, Lorelei. I'm going to have a nice sip of tea and get started. So basically, this song was recorded by Dave Kersner with some other people. And then I've added a load of guitars for it. They sent me the multi-track, and I kind of did a provisional mix and added a load of guitars to it. And yeah, we're going to go through it today. I'm going to review all the things I did on the mix and show how it's all set up and make a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes that need to be made. And but first, I think we should just listen to the song all the way through, start to finish.
Okay.
So I'm going to mute the microphone while we do that so we don't get too much spill. Goodbye everyone for a minute.
On the turning away from the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say which we won't understand, don't accept that what's happening It's just a case of others suffering. you're joining in the turning away. It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow and casting its shroud over all we have known. Unaware how the ranks have grown, driven on by a heart of stone. We could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord, using words you will find the strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change on the wings of the night. No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside. Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning?
Okay, well, that's where we're at with it at the moment.
I really like the way that sounds. I do.
I think it sounds, there's a lot of mess in it at the moment. There's, to my ears, I'm hearing a lot of mess. I mean, I have no idea what it sounds like on a Facebook stream. I hope anyone that's listening to this and trying to actually follow along with the mix is listening on some speakers, because through a phone or something, it's going to sound bloody awful.
I think it sounds really good.
Okay, well, I'm going to start from the beginning and go through and start, start doing it, start tweaking and start sort of showing how I've got it set up for the moment. One thing to say is, obviously, we're not trying to do a Pink Floyd tribute here. In fact, Lorelei specifically sort of said not to just do the Gilmour solo, which obviously I know how to play reasonably well. So I deliberately took myself out of the Gilmour thing and did all the guitar parts to this, the electric guitar parts to this, on a Les Paul, just to get it, you know, to not have the trem arm and to try and sort of break. It sounds great through my phone, nice one. To try and break the Floyd thing and do something that was a little bit more me. Not that I'm even sure what me is anymore, but and I think you were kind of doing the same with the vocals. You didn't want to just do a straight copy, did you?
We put our own little emotional take on the way that we sang it, and I'm very happy with the way it sounds. It sounds really warm and beautiful. Also, it was important to us that when we did do the song live with Pink Floyd, the drums didn't come in right away towards the end. It just made the choir effect so angelic, and I really like that we did it that way.
You mean?
From the weak and the weary, no more turning away from the coldness inside.
Yeah.
Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away?
That bit there.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice a cappella, isn't it?
Yeah, it is kind of.
So yeah, I'm going to start from the top. Don't need the mixer up. So drum sound wise, I have. Are you going upstairs?
Yeah, I
somewhere?
want to see if it's on my laptop.
Okay. Drum sound wise, let me move the mic around there so it's not in the way. Right. Tracks wise, I've got bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat mic. The hi-hat's not used at all in this, so I've just got it muted. Got 3 toms and a pair of overheads, which actually sound a little bit more like room mics to me. So either it was I don't know, it was either a big room or they've been mislabeled or they've been submixed or something. I don't know. I wasn't there when it all got recorded. People are commenting. Beautiful vocals. Wow. I think a stronger bass guitar would be nice. Yes, well, we're going to go through and we're going to dissect it all and mix it. So I do have a lot of plugins, but what I want to do is sort of turn them off and listen to the individual sounds, and I'll also show you how I've got stuff routed. So at the moment I've got the bass drum, the snare drum and the 3 toms going to a group. They are all grouped together in a group called close drums. So if I just solo that for a moment, I'm going to turn this other one called Drum Crunch down. You'll just hear just the close drums at the moment. Then we get through to a more exciting bit in the song, drum-wise. So there's no overheads in that, that's just literally just all the close mics. And then here I've got the overheads, which kind of have a nice amount of room to them. And then the overheads are going to the final drums group. And the close drums are also going to the final drums group. And then I've got sends here of the close drums and the overheads going to drum crunch, which basically has a load of compression on it, and it just kind of sounds really fat and dirty. So if I was to turn the overheads down and the close drums down, and we just listen to the drum crunch group, you can get an idea of how filthy this can sound. So that is so compressed, it's just really really sounding, I don't know, way over the top. You wouldn't have that, but if you just mix a little bit of that underneath, so if I just put the kind of the cleaner close drums and the overheads back in, and I'm just going to put a bit of the drum crunch in, and it just gives it that liveliness. And then I've got a reverb set up with things like the snare and the 3 toms, a tiny bit of the bass drum going to the reverb, but not as much. And that. And it's a little bit gated. It is an 80s song after all. Now I've got some pre-delay on it as well. Pre-delay is really important, I find, with drum reverbs, because it separates the reverb from the actual hit, so the two aren't happening at the same time. And that's being sent to the final drum group as well. So this here is all the drums together. I can probably turn this reverb off, actually. Don't want too much reverb on it. That was on from when I was tracking, when I hadn't got other stuff set up. I've got a bit of EQ. I'm taking out some frequencies on the whole kit, and I've got this plug-in here, just again filling out the sound of the drums. This is great as a, you know, it compresses it a little bit. I haven't got too much compression on all the drums as a group. So here we go. You can listen to the drum sound. I'm going to take some of that gating off the reverb along the release. So there's a lot about that that's good. I'm still not really happy with the bass drum. It's a little bit slappy, and the bottom end on it, when I was trying to turn up some low sub, it just seemed really, really boomy. So at some point I might end up triggering that. If I do end up triggering that, we'll go through the whole process of basically converting all the peaks to MIDI notes and triggering off another bass drum to either go along with it or completely replace it. Quite a lot of the times, pretty much on any song that I mix of my own, the bass drums are pretty much all replaced with samples and triggers, just because it just cleans it up, and then you can get a real nice thump without it all sounding messy. Let's have a look. So that's the bass drum at the moment. So on the bass drum I have this EQ here, and I've taken out various frequencies that were ringing. So for example, let's find something here that was quite significant. This 70 Hertz has a lot of ooh. So I'm trying to get rid of that, so but then boost something here. So that's sounding pretty punchy. And the snare. So I dipped out a couple of bits on the snare. This frequency here was a bit boxy. You see it's just making it sound a little bit nasally, so I'm dipping out some of that. I may have taken out too much of this bottom one. You can hear it's like, ooh, there's a ring on that, so I want to try and actually narrow that, so I'm just taking out the ring and not too much bottom end on it. There's the frequency. It's ringing. Let's take some of that out, but I don't want to lose the thump of the snare. It was sounding a little bit thin to my ears. Notice the way with it in, it's got a ring, and with it out, oh, I want to get something fatter. Something that doesn't ring. Put a donk on it. Wonder when you'd join, Matt. Yes, Andrew Manson, there's original music on this album as well. There's various different songs. There's one song called Forgotten How to Smile, which we started 2 and a bit years ago. Bonnie played drums on it, Ricky played bass, I played guitar and recorded it, and a guy called Dave Innes, who's a friend of Lorelei's, played keyboards on it. He did a great job, and Lorelei sung it, and I believe she wrote it with Lemmy from Motorhead. So there you go, original music, writing credits and production credits. That sounds great. You never know, I might do a live stream breaking down the mix of that when I do the final touches. But anyway, back to this snare. Put a donk on it. Send me links, Matt. Send me links to plugins that I should buy. And so that's sounding pretty good. The toms, I'm just going to loop a bit of toms where he plays something that's on all 3 toms. Something like this. I think this bar here. It's not playing the floor tom as loud there as in some other places, so let's have a look later on in the song. Oh, there was a good one. a second. Right. So why is the reverb still coming through? So there were some ringy frequencies here, this one particularly. I think I've got that. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. There's a horrible ring on that as well. Just a bit too much bottom end. For now, I'm just going to turn this reverb completely off because it's annoying me. Okay, those toms are sounding pretty nice. Slate. That's one, Matt. Lucky people, you got that fill twice there. Right, so one thing I like to do as well as crunching the drums and sort of parallel compressing the drums and putting them underneath the whole mix is I like to have the drums in a group there and then have all the other music in its own separate group, because sometimes you get a really kick-ass drum sound and you start putting everything else in and then the drums disappear, and really you want to go, I love the mix but I just want to bring all the music back so I'm not turning up the drums, because otherwise you're turning up the drums and then you turn the music up and, and everything just gets louder than everything else and it all gets messy. So as you can see, if I play, so if I just pull out the music, all the music goes. So if I had the music too loud and you're losing definition on the drums, you just pull it back a bit. So at any point I can just get rid of the music if I want to. Yes, VCAs would help with that. I just do it the way, nice one, Matt, but yeah, I do it the way I used to do it when I had the studio, when I was kind of working on the desk, where I'd route stuff through and just have a group that I'd just turn up and down, and I'm stuck in my ways, and I just model everything on the computer as I did back in the studio back in like 2000, 2001, when we were physically working with tape machines and desks and stuff. Right. So yes, bass. I'm going to come back to the bass in a minute. I want to look at the acoustics. So I've got some acoustic guitar here. Probably very badly played. So I've got two channels of acoustic guitar, one pan left. Probably the worst bit of playing in the song, and of course I start with that, don't I? So there's one on each side. And again, I've done the same thing as I've done with the drums, parallel compression. So I've got all of both the acoustics grouped to an acoustic group. They're a little bit panned You can see a little bit panned, but not too panned. Otherwise, it, I don't know. It just everything becomes too wide, and then if everything's wide, then nothing's in the middle. So I'm trying to create a decent sort of 3D spectrum here. I send that to the acoustics group here, which I've got a little bit of EQ on there, which I did yesterday, and then I've got this SSL bus compressor on it, which is got a high attack time. It's an auto release. It's not doing too much compression. It's subtle, that one, and I've got a little bit of reverb on it, which for now I'll turn off. Again, some of this was just chucked on quickly to do the monitor mix, to do the guitar tracking too. So that's why I'm going through it all now, because there's probably a lot I'm going to turn off or dial back. When I'm recording, I just want it really compressed and fat so I can have it up loud and play to it and enjoy it, and it kind of loses the subtlety. So along the side of that, that goes to that acoustic group there, and then I've got this other one here called AC Crunch. So if I turn down the acoustic group and just have the crunchy acoustics, it's an over-compressed for parallel compression, and I've got the old LA2A. So you can see how much, I mean, I've just whacked that up and gone. I mean, that's just so compressed, it's ridiculous. So if I turn that down now, and then that's the normal acoustic group, and I'll just bring a little bit of the crunchy acoustics in underneath it. And it just fills in the space where, you know, where the chord's ringing off and you might miss the texture of the chord. It kind of gets introduced under the with the crunch channel. Parallel compression is just, you know, the thing that makes everything sound so much better, in my opinion. Must say, I've got to give a shout out to Steve for this, because when we do this live, he plays the acoustic and I do the electric, and it sounds like a nice, you know, easy acoustic part. And actually, particularly at the beginning as well, when there's nothing else really playing and it's just like the acoustic and the vocals, to get that and get the right feel and change the chords but leave it ringing long enough, well, it's a lot harder than it seems. So I've got a newfound respect for when he's playing that part live. So I'm going to move to bass now. So the bass, I've got two different channels off. I was given a DI and I was given a modelled bass. I believe this was, is it Billy Sherwood? I'm going to look up what band he's in, because I feel embarrassed that I don't know. I've met him. He's a very nice guy. Oh, yes. Associated Acts, yes. Yes, he's in Yes. So, yeah, that's good. And he put his bass down on this, and I've got a DI and a, it says modelled bass, so I'm assuming that's kind of some sort of amp sim. And what I've done is, on the real low end of it, I've basically cut out a lot. So it's just sub. If you're listening on a phone or a tablet, you probably won't even hear this. And I've got a bit of subtle compression with a lot of attack, because I don't want to take out the initial note. And then the other one is really, really high passed, so you're not getting any of that sub from the model. And that's clipping there, so I'm and then when you put them together, and you have the sub from one and the top end from the other. And probably because of the EQing, I think originally the sounds were in phase, but when you EQ stuff, sometimes the phase gets shifted. That's why you have linear phase EQs and stuff like that. But in this case, I remember I went through and basically tried them, and when they're in phase, they're actually not in phase. I mean, it sounds kind of nice, but you put them out of phase to each other. Now I've done the EQing and it just is a little bit fatter. Sometimes having them out of phase can sound really cool because you get a sort of a more mid-scoop sound. It's all down to taste. There's no rules at all. So if I listen to drums and bass together, I'm going to try and turn the latency up a bit. This has been absolutely fine latency wise, but it's popping a little bit, probably because I'm streaming and recording the stream at the same time, all on the same computer. So let me just go to here and just up my latency a ridiculous amount. If not, I'll have to start freezing some tracks. So that's kind of the drums. Again, with the phasing of things, I checked out the phasing of the drums already, and the overheads or room and the tom mics, they seem to be all in the same phase, and the bass drum and snare drum weren't. But the way I did it was I listened to the bass drum and the snare drum first, and then listened to the overheads and put that out of phase. And then when I went to do the tom mics, rather than swap the phases of everything else, I just put the toms out of phase. And it's really important when you have recordings of things, because if you have mics that are pointing in different directions, they'll be picking up some similar sounds, but the waveforms will be opposite to each other and they'll cancel out. So checking phasing of things is really, really important. And even after you put on EQs, because EQs can shift the phase depending on what you're doing and what type of EQ you're using. So yeah, always check your phases. Right, I've got this guitar rhythm stereo. My friend Dave Kersner, who has been working on this album a lot longer than me, he recently gave me all the. He works with IK Multimedia. Is it IK Multimedia? Yeah, and they make Amplitude and a load of other plugins. And he gave me the complete set, and I've been using Amplitude 4 on this. The girl knows some amazing musicians. The bass players work with Toto. Oh yeah, he worked with Toto as well. Oh, there we go. Anyway, what was I doing on here? Yeah, so he gave me this, and I've been using this on quite a few of these songs. And I must say I'm pretty blown away by it. It's significantly better. Amplitude is significantly better than the ones that I was using, say, 2 or 3 years ago. Things like Guitar Rig, which I've been using for years. So yeah, bit of a shout out to Dave for sorting me out all that stuff. So these here are my stereo rhythm tracks. So it's not that you're going to hear them massively loud in the mix. They're just there, panned. Have I got them dead left and right? Yeah, I've got these dead left and right. So they're kind of filling up that really wide space. Oh, hello, Sarah. How are you? So yeah, they're just kind of filling in a bit of padding. Sometimes they can be too much. Later on I might pull them down or get rid of them altogether. I'm not really sure. I mean, this song isn't packed full of stuff at the moment, so they'll probably be in there, but sometimes you can layer up stereo guitars and then when it comes to a mix just go, they're just not adding anything to the mix, they're just adding mush but nothing good. So I've also got this guitar open wah. I was kind of originally going for like again, trying not to do Pink Floyd, not to do it like Pink Floyd. I was trying to get that kind of Mark Knopfler open wah, Money for Nothing sound. Yes, Will, we're mixing on the Turning Away for Lorelei and Durga's album. I almost called her Dorelei. That's Durga and Lorelei mixed together. They're now going to be known as Dorelei from now on. Yeah, we're doing their version, but to try and not make it sound too Pink Floyd, I was kind of trying something different, and I came across doing a finger sort of pull-off thing with an open wah sound that sounded a little bit like Money for Nothing. And I thought, well, that's going to make it sound significantly different to Pink Floyd. And then, of course, I whacked a load of delay on it and other bits. So it's like... And then I get the delay is automated and the feedback's gone right up and it's just holding that note at the end on over the middle section. Oh, got text message, hang on. Nice one, Matt. I'm going to try and not answer the phone while I'm streaming, but nice to know you were watching on the toilet. Excuse me, coughing. Oh, every time I cough, I think people are going to think I'm diseased. I'm fine. Just had too many roll-ups. Right, and the last guitar in this bit that I've got going on is... and that's got some automation on the end of it, just to bring it down in volume. Bit of Foxy Lady type stuff going on there. So altogether, that's...
On the wings of the night.
So that sounds pretty cool. I've got a Hammond going on here, which is using the... select the right channel. Why is it I'm much slower when people are watching me? Someone must know the psychology behind that. You know, when you're being watched when you're working, it makes it harder to do work. Right, so I've got this Hammond plugin again that I was given by Dave Kersner, along with Amplitude and all the other ones. And this just sounds phenomenal. I've got that, and then I've got this. I've got a Room Machine on it. Now, let me talk about the Room Machine. This plugin is part of the reason that I'm still mixing a lot of my stuff in an old version of Cubase, because it doesn't work with the new versions of Cubase. And I just love this plugin, amongst other plugins that I've got. This is completely free. You can Google it, the RM844. I think it's only for PC. It's a VST plugin. Well, maybe there's a Mac version, I don't know. But this is just, some guy knocked it up and put it on a website, and it just gives it's just amazing sounding room. I've been using it years, and I've tried all the sort of more newfangled ways of doing rooms and convolutional reverbs and stuff like that, and this one, I don't know, I just really like it. It makes you feel like you're in the room with the instrument. So yeah, and I can't use this in the later version of Cubase. I bought a later version of Cubase a year or so ago, and I've installed it, and I use it for certain things because it's really good for getting a load of multi-track drums, and then you can you know, stretch them and put things in time and stuff like that, all in multi-track, and it'll keep all the phase correct and everything. I mean, the later versions of Cubase are unbelievable, but there's just so many certain old plugins that I love that I just can't use, and they don't work well with JBridge, and it's easier to JBridge a 64-bit plugin to a 32-bit environment than it is the other way around, I've found. Anyway, bit of boring tech stuff there for you. So listen to this Hammond. So it's kind of... So if I turn that off, but I put the room on it, so that's the sound of the room. And on the Hammond as well, I've got a little bit of distortion over those bits, and then the drive of the distortion, you can see here, rolls back when we get to the chilled out bit. So it's a much more subtle Hammond sound.
No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside.
So let's go back to the beginning. So Dave gave me this synth that he put down. I don't know whether it was what they tracked to. And it sounded nice. I haven't got it that loud. I don't want to mess up the level of it, just in case. I'm going to copy the level. So it kind of sounds like that. Can I not do that? I'll return it back to what it was. But it didn't have the bottom end that I was looking for. There was a real nice sub at the beginning of the original of On the Turning Away. So again, from Dave's collection of plugins that he got me, I used the Syntronic, and again, you might not be able to hear that if you're listening on a phone or a tablet. If you're listening through speakers, you'll probably see you later, Andrew. Yeah, it's got a lot more bottom end on it. It's lovely, really like that. And then I've got another one here, another Syntronic. It's called Contact. I might change that name there. I think I was using Contact to try something else out. Intro synth. Can't type when people are watching me. I'm not used to being watched when I'm working. So this intro chord here is just where it changes to the C. I think I've got a little bit of chorus on both of those sounds as well. And then you can hear with Dave's pad as well. It just adds in that. Just adds in that extra tonal quality of the C chord and then back to the G. Will says, is this how my album was created? Yes, I used this software, pretty much all these plugins. I wasn't using Amplitude, and some of the other stuff that Dave's given me more recently. I was using, on my album, I used my Supro amp for some of it, and some of it was software guitar things. I mean, that was a mishmash because it was just worked on over so many years. That sometimes I did something in a demo with a piece of software, and then ended up just keeping it because I got used to it and it sounded good. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right, so that there. I'm going to mute the vocals for a second. Just go to Allvox. In fact, I'm going to turn that down there like that. I won't mute it. There's reasons for that. So thank you, Paul, for finding it interesting. In lockdown we try new things, and this is a new thing. Going through mixes and bits. Could be worse, I could be going through computer programming, which I might yet do one day. So you see that chord comes in there. And then we got these other pads here, which come in when the song comes in. Which I've separated, I've given them some more stereo width to get them out of the way of the music, the kind of like the acoustic guitars, which are a little bit panned, and then the vocals, the lead vocals, which will be in the middle. I basically delayed the right-hand channel of each of these synths by 40 milliseconds, so they have a bit of width. I was testing in mono to see, you know, where it didn't put it too out of phase and you didn't lose the signal. And 40 milliseconds seem nice because they take a while to come in and out. You know, you can play with the timing a little bit more of these kind of instruments. You couldn't do that so much with drums. It would be really obvious. Even a 10 millisecond shift on drums is really obvious. So I'm going to group all of these together because they sound nice and they're needed to pad out the song, but they've got a lot of this kind of low mid stuff, which I think is going to cloud the whole group, the whole mix. So I'm going to bring the group down to here and go pads. I'm going to send all of those to the pads. There we go. And I'm going to send the pads to the music group so that if I want to turn the music up and down, it turns the pads up and down as well. Here we go. Pads. And then I'll pull up my favourite EQ for this kind of thing. Just because you've got 10 bands of anything you want. It's great. Well, I'm guessing it's around 250, so I'm going to widen the queue and just see where the fat. around 200, there's just a bit of muddiness, and they'll widen it up and just pull some of that out. So I don't know how well this translates over a live stream feed, but you can hear with it, without the EQ in, and I put the EQ in, and it just cleans it up a little bit. I'm going to do a high pass on this. I think something a little bit more around here as well. Oh yeah, it's nasty. And once you clean out certain frequencies, you can turn things up in the mix without them getting away. Otherwise, you'd end up wanting to just turn them down. And Steve from Floyd has taught me loads. He's the master of EQing. I mean, he will sit there. What that man can do with a graphic EQ is almost limitless. And you know, when we've sat and mixed full live shows for DVDs and whatever, you know, I handle some of the technical stuff, but I've learnt a lot from his ears. He will sit there and go, oh, I don't know, we just need to carve that frequency out of there and do that, and the whole thing it just instantly sounds cleaner. So, bit of a shout out to him again. Up into the channel so that and now I can get that pad higher in the mix. It's just not getting in the way. Finding the reverb balance on the drums on this, because it's the sort of song that you could bathe it in reverb, but I'm trying not to mess the mix up by just having it covered in swampy reverb. Saving it as something different, just in case I want to go back to something I was doing yesterday. It was all Les Paul on this, obviously apart from the acoustics. It was all Les Paul. I specifically went for using a gold top Les Paul with humbuckers and my Marshall Governor pedal and other stuff to try and get away from. It's very easy for me to pick up a Strat and just kind of mimic Gilmour, because that's what I do for a job and that's what I do for most of my guitar playing. So Lorelei didn't want that. So sometimes you've got to, you know, stop yourself doing what's natural by trying something different. So yeah, this is all Les Paul, all the electrics on this. So I've got a bit of Hammond in there that I'm keeping in at the beginning of this. I think maybe a bit too much. So again, I'm using Amplitude on this. and I've got a stereo H delay giving us the delay, and then I've got an EQ that just dips out a bit of this here, and I've got the CLA.
I like the Hammond.
You like the Hammond?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Hammond as well.
It's got great body.
It sounds awesome. Were you listening upstairs?
Yeah.
You're watching along. Lorelei's, if you can't hear her, because she's just come down the stairs and said she likes the Hammond. But then when it goes to double time, what I was saying is when it goes to double time, I've got it coming down a little bit, because then your R's come in, and then the Hammond and the vocals at the moment will conflict. Okay. So, but yeah, so I was talking about the guitar, wasn't I? So yeah, I've got the CLA guitar plug-in with a little bit of stereo width on it, and a little bit of compression. Guitar-wise, it was the Les Paul. It was a Marshall Governor pedal, and was straight into the computer and then being processed by this setup here. And I think it sounded quite nice. I was really happy with the sound in the end. You still hear the Hammond quiet. Taking out a little bit of 2.3K there, just sounded a little bit whistly. See, that's the joy of the Les Paul. You can get really high because you've got 22 frets. Probably the fastest thing I've ever recorded. I think Jamie Humphries would be proud of me for that one. Last chord just sounds a little bit out of tune to me. It's really annoying me. Oh, it's just slightly flat. Oh, it is. We're talking like about that 1/100th of a semitone or something. There's just one note in it that's... Oh, anyway, I'll live with it.
Okay.
It's just annoying.
I wanted to hear what you were saying about the organ coming down a little when the background vocals come in.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll put the vocals back in a second. I'm going to go through them. It's just in that place. It's here. So you hear the organ here. A nudge back. So when you bring in the vocals, well, let's go through the vocals. You can sit down here while I'm doing that if you want. I can show what I've done processing-wise on the vocals. Nice air guitar. Cheers, Kev. Kev Hopgood's watching.
Oh.
Kev's one of the managers for Aussie Floyd. Nice to see you, mate. Cheers for sharing the At Home Need Work website as well. We need to get that out there. I'll be doing a plug for that in a minute. I'm going to have adverts in this live stream and everything. It's going to be awesome. Maybe we'll do that now. Maybe
I'll sponsor that.
Maybe that's a good point. So before we go through the vocals, everyone wants to stay tuned to go through the vocals with Lorelei and Durga's vocals. So before we do that, I'm going to do a quick plug for my new website, which is called athomeneedwork.com. If you're like me and you're sitting at home and you have resources and you can do things and people can send you files and you can work on stuff, but you need to advertise those services and create projects and get people involved that are all sitting at home during this, you can sign up to the website. I'm really not doing a good job of plugging it and saying this because it's on the fly. So I'm just going to let me, in this other video, do the talking. I'm going to mute the mic and here we go. That all went completely wrong, didn't it? Brilliant. Yeah, that went completely wrong. I have no idea why this video is not playing through the sound card. Oh, it is now. Sod's law, isn't it? I've had it queued up for ages to do an advert, and then the moment I want to do it, it doesn't work. Here we go. Take two. Hello, my name's Dave, and I'm here to tell you about athomeneedwork.com. All last year we were testing our new project, My Tour Book, for the entertainment industry, and earlier this year we launched it, only to have our whole industry, along with many others, paused. I was also on tour myself and had to return home due to shows being postponed. Rather than sitting around wondering how much my beard can grow before it starts itching, I've decided to try and do something productive. There are a lot of people with great skills sitting around at home wondering where their next paycheck's coming from. And there are also people out there with ideas they've never followed up, suddenly finding themselves with time on their hands. This site is designed to get people with certain skill sets together, collaborating and hopefully earning something. If you have skills and equipment at home, then please sign up and make your skills and rates known. If you have a project or idea and you need an app programmer, a video editor, you want your song mixed, you need a tutor via Skype, anything at all, then please sign up. This site has been written literally over the last few days. It's not perfect yet, and there'll be an app version for iOS and Android, and by the time you see this, they may already be out there. It takes a lot of people to make this work, but you can do your bit by signing up, making a profile, and sharing it amongst your friends. This is a free service built with the ethos that I wrote my tour book with. It's simple to use, specific to this task, and small enough to be adaptable to new events. You're probably thinking you could use Facebook, Gumtree, Craigslist, anything like that to try and achieve the same thing. But those sites already have so much noise that I feel that a site dedicated to one task for this moment is a better solution. And to set an example, I've added my profile, and writing this app in 1 week is part of my CV. Go to athomeneedwork.com and sign up for free. Please share this video, and thanks for watching. Okay, there we go. That was an advert. That's how professional it is around here. We've actually got adverts going on. Okay, enough of all that. Get rid of this mixer. Back to the song. Lorelei's making some tea. You making tea, Lorelei?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'd love a cup of Assam, please. It's good having Lorelei around. To help out. Right, so Lorelei, I'm going to start with your lead vocal. I'm just going to solo it and play it. So,
on the turning away, From the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say, which we won't understand, don't accept that what's happening is just a case of others suffering, or you'll find that you're joining in the turning away.
So what have I done to that? I've got on here an EQ. I'm high passing it around 95 hertz, and then I've got a notch out there, a little bit out at 250. There was a little sibilant frequency, or no, it was a ringing frequency in the mic actually. You can hear it. I'll turn it up and I'll show you. 1.6k.
On the turning
you can hear it. It's just like a whistle.
From the pale and downtrodden,
Just nip that out, and it just goes, and it's
and
so clean.
the words they say, which we wanna.
And then I've got an SSL bus compressor. I love this compressor. It's just nice and subtle. I've got it with a 3 millisecond attack and 1.2 second release, so that's quite a long release on that one. And then I've got the CL-A2A, also double stacking the compressors, so one's kind of working on a lot more of the signal, and then another one's just picking up the real quick moments when it jumps out. And all of that vocal is going to a group here called Vox 1, where I have another EQ that I'm just rolling off, because when lots of vocals get together, sometimes you end up creating a lot of bottom end that I just want to get rid of. I've got another SSL compressor over the group. I've got an LA76 over the group as well. Again, doubling, and they're only doing tiny little bits each. So in the end, that vocal's going to have 4 compressors on it. And then I've got the H delay, which you can hear, and a vocal plate reverb with a lot of pre-delay. Again, trying to get the reverb, push the reverb away from the sound.
On the turning away, from the pale and downtrodden.
Yeah, I think that sounds absolutely lovely. And then the final thing, which I love doing, particularly to lead vocals, is I've duplicated it twice, so it's exactly the same track. There's nothing different about it at all. And I've put the Waves tune over the top of each side with different settings. So it will make it sound like 2 different vocals to some degree. And then it's got the same compression and EQ, with the exception of I've rolled up the bottom end more. Oh no, I haven't on this one. I think it was Durga's one I had to roll up the bottom end more. So basically I've got 3 copies of the same vocals, but if we just listen to these 2,
On the turning
and they're kind of panned, and because they've got the tuners on them,
from the pale
and they're both different settings, gives that kind of chorusy, slightly chorusy sound. And it's slightly artificial sounding as well, but I don't use that as the main vocal. I just mix a tiny bit of that in underneath the lead vocal, and it just widens the whole thing. And in the mix, you don't really notice the left and the right vocals going on. It's just the
On the turning away,
very similar to like a
from the pale and downtrodden.
So that's that effect. And I've also delayed them a little bit. So the first one there is delayed by 10 milliseconds, and the second one is delayed by 20 milliseconds. So again, it just moves them out a bit from each other. So trying to stop phasing issues and make it seem like it's tripled up, but they're still very tight.
On the turning away from the pale and downtrodden.
And then I did the same with Durga's lead vocal on the next verse.
It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow.
So Durga has a very different voice in a lot of ways to Lorelei. Completely sort of different EQ to... I had to have the bottom end rolled up quite a lot more. She's got a lot boomier voice, and she's got a lot more dynamic voice. I mean, sometimes she can be singing really softly, and then the next minute she's really going for it. And I think it's just the part in this song. It's not that Lorelei doesn't have a dynamic voice, but Durga really goes from quiet to loud in you know, half a second. Even to the point here where I was chopping individual words out rather than automating it because I wanted to triple the tracks up. I was chopping individual words out and turning them up and down just to try and keep some sort of consistency. And then the compressor settings were slightly different with her again because she's got a different dynamic range. And the the left and right thing have the bottom end rolled up more.
It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow.
Ah, cheers, Lorelei.
And casting its shroud over all we have known.
Oh, it's lovely.
Unaware
Lorelei just made me some tea. Lovely.
how the ranks have grown, driven on by a heart of stone. We could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud.
So there's still some words there that seem to come and go.
We could find that we're all alone.
That all there, I want to... I'll bring that there, and I think this is a louder wave, and I'll crossfade it there, so the word all is...
We could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud.
Now the word all doesn't dip down as much, so... I didn't have to do much of that with Durga later on in the song. It was more just on that because it's just with the acoustic guitar. And I think with Lorelei at the beginning, because it's just over the synth, it doesn't stand out as much. But when Durga sings with the acoustic guitar and more instruments in, it was much more obvious that certain words were not coming out and certain words were coming out. So I had to do a lot more work on that to get that to sound the way I wanted it to. But... you know, if needed in a mix, you really have to go through. You can be sitting there turning individual words up and down. You know, if there's background noise or people breathing that's annoying and coming through, unless you're a muse and you want to hear that stuff, you know, you can really trim down to the individual lines and between words and stuff. You know, it really improves the mix because the cleaner the sources that you're working with, the better the whole thing's going to sound. So they were the main lead vocals. They've got a kind of a lead vocal each, which is tripled up, so that ends up being 6 tracks. And then I've got 2 of Durga here that are like a backing vocal over the third verse.
On the wings of the night.
Because Durga actually doubled this rather than it being something that I've kind of artificially doubled or tripled, I've panned them a little bit left and right, and I also had to bring in the high pass right up to 159 on this, because where she's singing with Lorelei, every now and again Durga's sort of voice, which is, you know, is quite powerful, but this is a subtle part, and both of them singing together, so it would just cloud Lorelei, so I had to take some of the bottom end off that. But I think with Lorelei pretty much being in the middle, other than those doubles, and then Durga panned a little bit. How far have I got her panned? She's like, yeah, about halfway each side. It gives the space so that you can hear both Lorelei and Durga at the same time.
On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring.
So some of that there is annoying me. I don't mind a tiny bit of breath coming in, but don't want it
On the wings.
maybe a little bit more than that at the beginning, so it sounds human. But then this kind of stuff in between, to me, just sounds annoying, particularly seeing as there's 3 of them. You know, there's 2 of Durga and 1 of Lorelei, and they're not all breathing at the same time, so it's not like listening to one person breathing. It's listening to 3 people breathing. And if you've ever had a phone call where someone's breathing down the phone at you and it feels creepy, that's the kind of experience you don't want to have while you're listening to a song you like. So I'm going to eliminate some of this just by eye for the moment, and then have a listen back and fade in and out each channel. Beat of wave. Bring that there. Bring that back there. And we have a listen back to that.
On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord. Using words you will find a strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change on the wings of the night.
And that cleans it up, and we got rid of you all going like that, and you sound like the beginning of a Floyd song off Animals. You know what I mean? That because it's one person doing it. Like at the beginning, I've left some of your breathing in because it's just you, and it sounds natural.
Yeah.
But you get 2 or 3 people, and the whole thing just accumulates, and then before you know it, it just sounds awful. And also, it depends how loud it is in the mix. I mean, if you have it on backing vocal groups and there's like a load of ahs and oohs and people are breathing, if you have it in the background and people are coming in and out at different times, you might be able to get away with it more, but not on a lead vocal like that. Okay, so let's have a look at the backing vocal group here. I've got what I've called the choir. So I've got Durga here, 2 of Durga, 2 of Lorelei in the middle, and 2 of Lorelei singing high. And I've also got this extra one that's in the centre where Durga is singing the main line because she deviates from the main line at that point on the lead vocal, so she's kind of filling it in a little bit underneath. And I've got that a little bit turned down compared to the others because some of it's the same as the lead vocal and I don't want it to clash with the lead vocal, so it's just in there adding some support. So I'll go through these individually actually. Let's go through. So Durga's low one here we've got, and they're kind of panned because it's the lowest one. I've got them panned a little bit left and right, and then the middle ones are panned a lot more left and right, and then the high ones are even more left and right. So you're kind of spreading out with the lowest ones being more central and then the highest ones being further apart. Because bass frequencies they're not as directional, you can't tell where a bass frequency is coming from, whereas a high frequency you can tell where it's coming from a lot better, so it makes sense to have the higher ones panned more. So yeah, Durga's, and I've got some chorusy stuff going on, so it kind of sounds a little bit artificial, but when they're all in it sounds quite nice. And then you've got Lorelei there, and then we've got Lorelei on this top one here, and then you put them all together. And then over the whole lot there, I've got another H delay. I love this plugin with a bit of ping pong delay, very, very short ping pong delay, so you can hear. It's very nice and short. I've got an EQ just rolling off some bottom end because I haven't put any effects on the individual channels. I'm just putting them together as a group and treating them because sometimes that works. If I need to, I'll go in on the individual channels and do it, but sometimes it's just fine as a group. So I've ducked out a bit of 230-ish hertz, a little bit 500, and I've added some brightness around 8K just to get some air into it. And then I've got the CLA vocals plug-in with the stereo widener, and I'm really compressing it with that just to make it sound trashy. Again, you can almost, in a minute, I'm going to try a parallel compression on the vocals with a kind of a trashy vocal track. And you'll see what I mean by that. Trashing vocals and making them sound distorted, and then you put almost distorted when they're solo, and then you put them in the mix, and they don't sound distorted really at all. I mean, a lot of your favourite records that from back in the day were recorded with these valve preamps that were basically distorting the vocal and then putting them to tape, which was compressing the vocal even more. And people would be like, oh, it's just a clean signal, because that was what a clean signal was to them back in the day. But now if I actually did a mix with a clean vocal signal, it would sound awful. People would be like, well, where's all the character? And all the character comes from sort of a lot of the time just trashing the sound a little bit. So I've done that with these backing vocals. I've pushed the compression up a bit and, you know, driving it.
Coldness inside, just a world that we all must share. Not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away?
It sounds like the high one needs to come up a little bit in the middle.
Which point? The
Play it again.
Coldness inside, just a world that we all must share. Not enough just to stand and stare. Is it
all of that end?
Yeah, just a world that we all must share.
Onwards.
Not enough just to stand and stare.
Okay, let's turn that up.
the world that we all must share? Not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away?
You know what I'm missing there more? Because that's an octave up from what Durga's singing. And to me, the fact that they're both parallel is nice. But now I'm missing that. If we turn that up, I'm missing the middle, which is the bit that gives the harmonic content. You know, it's have a listen to it.
Just a world that we all must share. Not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away?
It's the middle bit's the most, to me, the most, and also when it's in with the music,
Right.
all of the lower end stuff will probably be masked a lot more, and the top end will, to me, stand out. I mean, we can edit it up to, obviously.
No,
we
but
can edit.
that balance sounds good.
That sounds cool. So the next one, the next lot here.
Actually, can I hear that against the music, though?
Oh, okay. I wasn't going to do that at the moment. I'm going through and just
Okay.
listening to, because I won't explain the next bit here. But yeah, we'll go back. We're going to listen to it against the music in a second. Right. So this here, I got these through, and there wasn't anything else, so I've copied them to there, so it extends all over the whole solo. But what I've been trying to do is build it so it sounds like 3 different backing vocal sections.
Right.
So the top end ones here I've turned down. So in this first lot, and then the second lot you get more of the higher. Something weird's going on there. I've got a little pitchy thing on it. I'm wondering whether that's screwing it up. I've got something on there because I'm trying to do like a pitchy chorusy effect to try and make it Sound right? I think one of them's bending one of your notes to the wrong note. I'll go in and edit that in a minute. But the idea being is I'm trying to get it to build, and at the moment it's not building in the way that I want it to. So I might have to pull the top and the mids down a bit there, and then have them.
You mean in the first pass?
Yeah, so it's more low end, so that it sounds more. And then here. And then it sounds like as a group you're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's have a listen with the music. The top more with the music because the bottom's kind of mixing in, and then let's listen through it this bit. I've got to do some little tweaks on that. I don't know what. What's that? Where you go?
Over here, some more balanced.
Oh, okay. That's too much. high one's really loud on this one. So on that one I brought the bottom ones down a bit.
First pass,
yeah,
it needs to come up a little still.
What?
The high one.
The high one?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't want it too much, otherwise it's not going to build to the next place. But yeah. That's another advantage when you're dealing with large backing vocal groups, another advantage in this software anyway, and probably every other bit of software, of not doing too much processing like compression or whatever on individual channels, because then you can literally just grab bits of the wave and turn them up and down and kind of mix them within and then just treat them as a group.
But they sound in tune too, that thing you were worried about?
Yeah, I think if we soloed it, it might be a bit subtle. I'll deal with that later when we're off camera. The last thing I want to be doing is getting into messing about and making your vocal sounding like you can't sing when it's not you, it's me, because I've been doing an effect on it. But I'm not going to do that while we're streaming.
I just think it has a really nice full. It sounds like a choir. You know, it's
yeah,
got
yeah.
that angelic quality that I think was intended when they wrote it.
Sounds nice. It sounds nice. So I'm still just hearing some general mush. I just want to go through and clean up, and I think maybe the drum compression's a bit too much. So let's find a good place for the music, a good good level for the whole music group. Right, I'm getting to the point where I'm hearing things and then changing them and then not changing them, and I need an ear break from it. So I'm going to stop this stream for a bit, and then we might come back later after a break. So see you all in a bit.
Okay, I'm happy.
Cool.
I'm really happy. I think it sounds beautiful.
Yeah, there we go. Right, so see you all in a bit. Let's see if I can do this taking a break slide, all right. Hello, and we are live. Anyone there?
We're back.
We're back. We've had quite a long ear break from it. I ended up having a couple of phone calls, both very enjoyable. I'm just waiting for some people to turn up. So for those of you who watch this later on, we don't want this usual 2 minutes of just sort of sitting here doing nothing, waiting for people to turn up. So we're here mixing the McBroom Sisters album. And this is, someone's just turned up. We've got 4 people now.
I need to put it on mine too.
Oh, you?
On my wall.
Yeah, well, you can put it on your wall. We'll do that in a second. We'll do it in a second. Anyway, we're here mixing the McBroom Sisters album. And we've been mixing their cover of On the Turning Away. And we did all that in the last stream. I went over the whole mix. And now I just want to have a listen back to it to see where we're at.
And before we do that, I wanted to also let everyone know we have original songs on this project as well. So it isn't all covers, but because people know us so well for our work with Pink Floyd and we love some of these songs, we picked a few of our favorites to sort of pay homage to what started this whole thing for us.
You never know. If this goes well, we might go through one of the original songs. We could go through Forgotten How to Smile as well.
Sure.
Which is quite nice. Okay. Oh, Chris says hello, and Sharon and Ian.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. There's a delay, by the way, so if you send a message, we don't see it for about a minute, and then by the time I've answered, or by the time you're writing to me, we're probably on something else. Anyway, enough of us waffling, or me waffling, more to the point. Let's have a listen through to where we got to at the end of the last one. I'm going to mute the microphone while I do this, so goodbye for a second.
On the turning away from the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say which we won't understand, don't accept that what's happening it's just a case of others suffering. that you're joining in the turning away. It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow and casting its shroud over all we have known. Unaware how the ranks have grown, driven on by a heart of stone. We could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord, using words you will find a strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change on the wings of the night.
Okay. I was doing having a listen through with headphones on that as well, making some changes. You can hear me? Yeah, the mic's coming through, good. Yeah, one thing I did is when it goes double time in the solo, I pulled the organ down a touch, and I also brought the pads down a little bit over that to make some more space for the bass and the drums and stuff to come through. I also turned down the stereo left and right guitars because they were kind of in the same frequency range as the solo a bit, and on headphones I could hear it was sounding a bit muffled. I made some edits to the vocals. I was trying to do this thing where they built up, where the high and the medium vocals needed to sort of build. So in these first bits here, and then the second bits there, they kind of get louder than it would. But oh dear, hang on, is my stream gone? No, it's come back. But yeah, that's that didn't really work. I listened on headphones and it sounded like it was just Durga and Lorelei was missing. So I've kind of turned them up a bit. You'll get a little bit of build, but actually I don't really think that worked too well. I turned up the choir or turned it down. I can't remember what I did at that point there. So yeah, I was just making some adjustments as I went along. I was listening on headphones because sometimes it's good to check on a different system. So now I'm going to listen through again with the with just through the speakers. I won't mute the mic. I don't think listening back to the previous one, I listened back to a bit of it, and I don't think having the mic on added much noise. So if I want to talk about making any changes, I can do it as we're doing it. So here goes. Number 2. I'm also thinking that I might want to put a shaker or a tambourine in some of it, so that it's got a little bit of movement.
On the turning away from the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say which we won't understand. Don't accept that what's happening it's just a case of others suffering. Or you'll find that you're joining in the turning away. It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow and casting its shroud over all we have known. Unaware how the ranks have grown, driven on by a heart of stone. We could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring.
That sounded shit. That was fucking awful. Right, so I'm getting. One of the last things I did was turn the snare down before we kind of went back, and that is just way too down. That came in there, and I want to hear that punch. That was. I don't know what I was doing at the end. That's why it's important to take ear breaks, because you can work on something hour and a half, and you're just so into it, and you're turning things up and down, and then you lose your way. And I've just listened to that when it comes in. There was no impact there at all. Maybe a touch more reverb as well. Oh, this cheesy 80s reverb.
Proud on the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord.
It's not cutting through. It's too squashed. So my drums are too squashed. Oh no. Okay. So So I've probably got too much of that drum crunch group in. I'm going to take that out for now. Turn down the compression a little bit on the close drums. Okay, so I've not got any drum crunch in now. I added in some bottom end on the snare as well in the first stream, so I'm going to add in a little less of that. Just a touch less. Oh, I'm getting better crack there though. I'll turn it up a bit. Okay, I'm worried that the close drums and all the drum crunch and everything are... I want something that's not so compressed to come through, so I'm going to actually send a little bit of the less treated snare to the final drums group, so it kind of has a bit of breathing space and it's not being sucked back by all the drums. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's working. Because I did that with the bass drum as well. Oh yeah, that's much better. So let's see if that's fixed. I was horrified. I was sitting here and listened back. I was like, where the fuck, where the drums gone? Sorry, I shouldn't be swearing. My mum might be listening. Ha! I was like, where are the drums gone?
All alone in the dream of the crowd.
40-year-old man worried about what his mum thinks.
On the wings of the night,
Oh yeah.
as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord, using words you will find a strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change on the wings of the night.
Like the drums are just getting a little bit too lost in the overall thing for me. I just want the punch there, so that's why I have everything grouped on the music, and I was toying with it between -3 or kind of -2.5, and I split the difference, but I think -3 is better.
In the dream of the crowd, on the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord, using words you will find a strange, mesmerized as they lie.
Right. Part of the problem for me with this is there's not an under snare mic, so it's too snappy and I'm not getting the snariness of it. I know of people saying sounds amazing. It's yeah, I mean it does sound really good. Don't get me wrong, it sounds really good, but I'm a real pain in the arse when it comes to this stuff. I'm going to try something that I was considering earlier. So I've got a hi-hat track that I'm not using because there's no hi-hat on this song, and it's going to close drums at the moment, which I don't want to do. I'm going to send it to the final drums, so it doesn't really get affected by the other things. It's just affected in the final group, and I'm going to have it in the middle. I just want to listen to the hi-hat track because it'll pick up. Yeah, listen to that snare. So I'm getting some quite nice snariness from the hi-hat mic. I'm going to turn it up a little bit here. So I'm going to try and run a gate on it. I'm going to run a gate. Gate. There we go. And I'm going to try and sidechain this gate, and I've completely forgotten how to. Is it that button there? Yes, it is. I've completely forgotten how to do this because I haven't done any side chaining for a while. I basically want to get the side chain to react from the snare drum. So forgive me here, it's been several years since I've used a side chain in Cubase, so I'm just going to Google it. Side chaining in Cubase, side chain input, where do I set it from? Apply, ducking, compress, yes. Oh, someone tell me, someone must know how to side chain on Cubase, I've completely forgotten. Look like a bloody idiot in the process as well. Is it something to do with the input? This is annoying me. Oh, I think I know how to do it. Hang on, let me have a look here. Side chains, that's it. So I can send it from the snare to the hi-hat. So there we go. Okay, so now I've got the hi-hat channel, which is here. Should be gated by the sidechain, although I've muted it, that's why. So let me just turn the so now every time he hits the snare, this is the way it's meant to work, the hi-hat mic will open. And I'm going to... Oh, cheers, Ben. I got there before I saw it because there's a delay, but thank you very much, mate. That's really, really helpful. Right, here we go. I've got the Q10 here. I'll take off some of the bottom end. There's a boxiness around there which I'm going to pull out. I'm going to whack on the old SSL compressor. Right, I need to drive it a bit better. I was having this conversation earlier with someone. If you don't give it the correct input signal, it's not going to respond correctly. So turn up the level. So get a better level to the SSL compressor. And now if we put the snare back in, oh yeah. Check the phasing. Let's check the phasing of those two together. Don't really want to gate that snare. I quite like the snare being open. But that, I think, has added some definition to the snare. In the track will sound lovely.
Of the proud, on the wings of the night.
It's muted still. I thought that didn't sound different. I might add a touch of reverb to that. The under snare, just a touch, because it's gated and it can really trigger off that 80s sounding snare.
On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, speechless unite in a silent accord. Using words you will find the strange, mesmerized as they light the flame.
So I'm just listening to that hi-hat mic as a snare at the moment. It's got some horrible... Oh, that's a ringy one. Oh, that's better. Listen to that. Sounds like it's got a place in the mix now. And now with the actual snare, let me check the phasing. Oh yeah. Yeah, change the phase. So there we go, I'm using a hi-hat mic as an under-snare mic because I didn't have an under-snare mic, and I wasn't planning on doing that at all. You know, I don't really plan any of this in the video, so let's see.
On the wings of the night.
Oh yeah, that's much better.
As the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord. Using words you will find the strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change, the wings of the night.
You know, there's a quality about that hi-hat mic as a snare mic, which I actually prefer to the snare mic. It sounds great. Man.
Using words you will find the strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change on the wings of
Top tip, always record an under snare mic.
the night.
Oh yeah, I ducked down my open wire guitar here. Right, here's another thing that's cool. I had this point here where I wanted that sort of Hendrixy, Foxy Lady sort of fret buzz thing going on. I wanted that to drop down, but I didn't want to automate the volume because I still want to be able to use the fader. So I just put on a blank EQ plugin that I'm not doing anything with, but I'm just using the output level and automating that. So that turns down. And it turns down in the plugin rather than doing it. So I can now turn that up and down on the channel, and it will proportionally automate because of that last plugin. Because it can become really annoying when you get loads of volume automation. You just want to grab a channel and turn it down a bit, and then suddenly you realise you've got all these automation points. And then you end up putting an EQ plugin to turn up and down the track, and then you end up mixing, rather than with the faders, you end up mixing with outputs of plugins, which Sometimes you have to do, because some plugins you can't turn down, like this one, the maximum it goes down to is -24. So I couldn't get a fade, for example, to 0 using that plugin. So I'd probably end up having to use the volume or a different plugin. So it's not every single time, but that's just a really useful thing to have when you're building a mix, to be able to grab your faders and just move them.
No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside. Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare.
Oh, listen to that snare. Woo! Yeah, baby. Cheers, Ben. You'll like this bit, Ben. That's just made so much difference. Using that hi-hat channel as a snare mic. I know it seems, crazy, but, use whatever signals you've got in the best way you can. I think that sounded lovely.
On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord.
I'm using the wrong plugin. I'm meant to be using this EQ plugin. Don't ever do that, people. That's very bad. See, I've got one here with a really wide Q, so this one here is just boosting up and down, and as I change the frequency, it's kind of tipping it more to the bottom end or tipping it more to the top end. I'm trying to get the colour, what I call the colour of the acoustic right. See, that's kind of richer, and that's thinner and more trebly. That sounds better, it's got more body to it. I'm really not a good acoustic guitar player at all, so apologies for some of the timing there.
It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow.
Much better. And then when the song comes in,
dream of the proud on the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring.
right, I think because the snare in this bit is a bit lighter, you can see these bits here, the snare is lighter, and then when it kicks in, he's playing heavier.
Of the night.
And I'm just not getting the level. The tone's nice, you know, it's not that you should have whacked it, but I'm not getting the level, so I'm just going to push that up, and that will hit the compressors and hopefully drive it a bit more.
On the wings of the night,
Yeah, that's
as
better.
the daytime is stirring, where the speechless you.
And of course I'm going to do that with my pseudo undersnare, the hi-hat. And just turn that up a bit for this bit, and then when he whacks it more, it will come.
On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord.
All on the Les Paul, Ben.
Using words you will find a strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. Feel the new wind of change on the wings of the night.
Right, I want to watch where my wah guitar, this open wah guitar, needs to go away now. I want to bring it back at the end a little bit louder. Because this open wah guitar's got this delay thing that continues, that feeds back. And I want that to be in there.
No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside. Just a world that we all must share. Not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away?
This was the one I used, Ben. This is it's a 57 reissue, one of the R7s. I think it's from 2003. I've got two of them. I've got one from 2012, one from 2003. And I don't know which one this is. The other one's with the band gear on tour. Lovely. Right, well, I'm going to leave that for a bit because I don't think I'm going to make any more significant changes this evening. I'm quite sort of happy with where that is for the moment. I think I need to live with it for a few days and put it on my phone or iPad and go and listen in the car and all the usual stuff that one does when mixing a song. But yeah, this has been fun. I am considering, for the few people that are sort of left watching this video, I'm considering doing this as a more regular thing where I mix some stuff, and I'm up for people sending me their song, you know, and if I like the song and they want me to do a mix, they can send me the multi-track and I will live stream mixing their song, because it's actually quite an enjoyable thing to do. Lorelai's
that sounded great.
Did you see what I was doing with the hi-hat, where I was turning the hi-hat mic into a thing?
That.
Yeah, that was. It just sounded too much like a timbali without the under snare mic. It just doesn't sound like a snare. You know, it's the snariness isn't there, and I'd often trigger it, but if I hadn't have been able to do it with the hi-hat, I would have made a MIDI trigger of the snare and just triggered a sample but the hi-hat there worked really, really nicely. So yeah, but for now, that's it. Thanks for taking part, everyone, in what is, you know, quite a fun experiment doing this for both of us.
It also gives you a little insight on the process, that what goes into making a record. I mean, you didn't get to see the recording part. That would bore you to death. But it's a long process. It takes a lot of patience and good ears.
Yeah. Where are they? Anyway, yeah, I'm off to go and find some good ears. And, yeah, I'll do some more. I'll see you all later. Nice one.
Bye.
Bye.